SpaceX is about to go public in the biggest IPO in history since Saudi Aramco's $1.7 trillion IPO. Mark this date, June 12th, because this is the kind of moment that creates generational wealth. And if you're not paying attention, you might just look back and wish you were. In today's video, I'll be breaking down the upcoming SpaceX IPO, including its valuation, financials, and whether or not you should actually invest. I'm also going to show you guys how you can actually get exposure to SpaceX before the IPO even happens. So make sure you stay till the end of this video. Alright, so before we get into SpaceX, let me quickly explain what an IPO is. An IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. It's when a private company that's been operating behind closed doors finally decides to open up its doors to the public for the first time, meaning retail investors and regular folks can finally buy a piece of share in the company. Before an IPO, only venture capitalists, private equity, and insiders can own shares of the company. The average person has no way in. An IPO completely changes that. It puts shares of the company available on the stock market where anyone with a brokerage account can buy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why the SpaceX IPO is such a big deal, because for years, SpaceX has been one of the most innovative and valuable companies on the planet that's been off limits to retail and everyday investors. And that's about to change on June 12th. Let's talk about the numbers. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. SpaceX is currently targeting a valuation of $1.75 trillion at IPO. To put that into perspective, this makes them larger than OpenAI and Anthropic combined. And both of these, we already know, are considered massive generational company. And that tells you everything we need to know about the scale of what we're talking about here. Valuing SpaceX isn't straightforward because this isn't one of those companies where you can just throw price to earnings multiple on and call it a day. SpaceX operates across multiple business lines and each one carries its own valuation stories. So let's break down the financials. On the revenue side, SpaceX generated around $15 to $16 billion in revenue in 2025, with roughly $8 billion in profit. Their launch business, the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy, generates billions from government contracts and commercial launches. NASA, the Department of Defense, private satellite companies, they all pay SpaceX to get their payloads into orbit, and SpaceX dominates this market. They conducted a total of 165 orbital launches in 2025 and have deployed around 85% of all spacecrafts. And here's the thing most people completely overlook when they talk about SpaceX. They think about rockets, Elon sending people to Mars, colonizing Mars, making a moon base, but what they miss is the key factor of Starlink. Starlink is SpaceX's satellite internet business, and it might be one of the most profitable and valuable part of the company. Since 2016, SpaceX has launched thousands of small satellites into low Earth orbit, forming a mesh network that can beam high-speed internet to virtually anywhere on the planet. We're talking about remote areas, developing countries, war zones, ships at seas, disaster zones, places where the traditional internet infrastructure cannot reach. And the subscriber growth for Starlink has been absolutely explosive because millions of customers around the world are already paying monthly for Starlink services. And airlines are now partnering up with Starlink to install their services directly onto their airplanes. We're talking about in-flight internet services powered directly with Starlink satellites. Major airlines are already signing deals. Think about what that means. Every passenger on every flight becomes a potential Starlink users. That's a completely new revenue stream that didn't exist a couple years ago, and that's growing fast. So when you start adding up Starlink subscriber revenue, government contracts, maritime deals, and aviation partnerships, some analysts have valued Starlink alone at over $100 billion. So when you buy into the SpaceX IPO, you're not just buying a rocket company, you're also buying a global internet provider that also dominates its entire industry. Alright, so should you actually invest in the SpaceX IPO? So here's my honest take. SpaceX is a generational company that we've never seen before. And there are a few businesses in history that performs the same way SpaceX does, but few has simultaneously disrupted entire industry like SpaceX did. SpaceX has created an entire new market and positions themselves as the center of what could be the most technologically important frontier of the next century, and that is space. If you believe that the future of humanity includes becoming a multi-planetary species, then SpaceX is definitely one of the most compelling long-term investments you can make. This is a high conviction, high risk, long-term bet. The stock will be very volatile, especially in the first couple of days of trading. If you're investing in SpaceX, you're invested in a 10 to 20 year vision. And if you can stomach the volatility, then June 12th might be one of the most important days of your investing career. And as always, make sure you do your own research before making any investment decisions. Now, here's the part where I promised you guys at the beginning. How do you actually get exposure to SpaceX before the IPO on June 12th? And through my research, I managed to come up with a couple of options. Starting out with option number 1, that is the Fundrise Innovation Fund, ticker symbol VCX. VCX is listed on the New York Stock Exchange and gives you direct exposure to SpaceX, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Databricks all in one fund. You can buy this fund on any brokerage account like a regular stock. But here's the warning, VCX surged over 1,700% the day it was released and the day they announced that it had exposure to SpaceX. And investors at the peak were paying more than 30 times of what the actual value of the asset inside the fund was worth. That's an extreme premium if you ask me. And when SpaceX goes public, that premium could collapse fast. So if you decide to buy VCX right now, just understand that you might be paying way more than what the underlying assets are actually worth. So for our second option, we have the Ark Venture Investment Fund, ticker symbol ARKVX. The Ark Venture Fund holds SpaceX, and it is its largest position at 70% of the fund, alongside with OpenAI and Anthropic. You can buy it through SoFi with a minimum of a $500 investment. But the key thing I want you guys to know is that it is an interval fund, meaning you can only buy and sell once per quarter. If you want publicly traded stocks that move alongside with the space economy, then Rocket Lab's, ticker symbol RKLB, which is typically known as the cousin of SpaceX, it is a real rocket company with real revenue and real launch data. And the stock has rallied over 449% in the past year. It's not SpaceX, but it is the next best thing you can buy without having direct access to SpaceX. And if you rather not pick individual stocks, then the NASA ETF gives you diversified exposure to the space economy all in one fund, including an indirect exposure to SpaceX. Last but not least, of course, we have the IPO on June 12th itself. Make sure you have the funds allocated in your brokerage account before the IPO date. Don't wait until the last minute to allocate the funds. Set it up right now. I hope you guys found this video useful. Now, I will be hosting a full live stream of the SpaceX IPO on June 12th. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications bell so you don't miss out. If you want to sign up for a brokerage account to get access to or to trade SpaceX on day one, make sure you use one of my links down below so you can get a free bonus when you sign up. And as always, stay safe out there.